Breaking in here with tee times for the U.S. Open, which is this week, Brookline, Massachusetts, just outside Boston. Rory McIlroy coming off the great win at the RBC Canadian yesterday. He's going to tee off early on Thursday, 7:40 a.m. off the 10th tee. And this is interesting because we've got some LIV golfers who are going to be making their first appearances back here with their PGA Tour brethren, like Phil Mickelson, who goes off at 1:47 Eastern Time with fellow liver Louis Oosthuizen and Shane Lowry, who is not a liver. Bryson DeChambeau going to be a liver with former Masters champ Gary Woodland and Justin Rose, who almost shot a 59 yesterday. All right, let's get Kyle Porter in here for his take. Kyle, what do you think about the way the USGA went about assigning these tee times and groupings with some LIV players playing together?
Well, first of all, I can't stop laughing at the idea of somebody being a liver, whether in the present or in the future. I like these groupings. You know, I think there's been a propensity in the past for the USGA, or even we saw the PGA of America, or even the PGA Tour at the Players Championship and other tournaments, to kind of put these super groups together where you have maybe the top 3 players in the world, or maybe you have Tiger and Phil together, as we've seen at some past major championships or the Players Championship. And I think the USGA did a really good job here of spreading champions out, of spreading popular players out to where they are good groups, but you don't have like a Rory, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth group. I love that Rory, Hideki, Xander Schauffele group. Xander Schauffele is the only player in this field that's finished in the top 10 at the last 5 U.S. Opens. Rory's coming off a win. Hideki has global appeal and is a Masters champion, but you haven't consolidated all of your stars into just 2 or 3 groups. I think they're more spread out, which I really like to see. And it would have been kind of silly, I think, if they would have put all the LIV golf guys into a single group. They've done, the USGA has done kind of silly groups like that in the past. I think the way that they've done it keeps it more about the championship at hand and less about what is going on extracurricularly in the golf world right now.
Dustin Johnson, by the way, is in a group with Matt Fitzpatrick and Webb Simpson, and that is the group right before the Phil Mickelson group. So DJ and Phil going off the first hole in back-to-back groups. What did you take away from the groupings that both Phil and DJ are going to have? Those are the two, obviously, the biggest name American LIV golfers.
Yeah, I think they make sense. I mean, Dustin Johnson and Webb Simpson are former U.S. Open champions, and Matt Fitzpatrick is not a U.S. Open champion, but he's a U.S. Amateur champion at this course, at Brookline. He won the U.S. Amateur here back in 2013. That was the 6th U.S. Amateur that the country club at Brookline has hosted. So I think if you're going just on the golf and just on USGA history, it makes a ton of sense for those 3 to be grouped together. If you could throw the Phil group back up there, I can't totally remember. He's with Louis Oosthuizen and I believe Shane Lowry. Yeah. Okay, in his group. So those are guys obviously who have never won the U.S. Open, but they're all Open Championship winners. They've all won the Open Championship. Phil obviously has 6 majors to his name, having won the PGA last year, which feels like 100 years ago now. And then Shane Lowry won the 2019 Open. And Louis Oosthuizen won the 2010 Open Championship at St. Andrews, where we will return in just about a month for the 150th Open Championship. So those guys are all major winners. That's kind of the through line there. That's kind of the thread that kind of binds them together. So again, let's take LIV out of it. If you were just saying, hey, these are your groups for the U.S. Open, I don't think there would be a lot of surprise there based on what those guys have done in major championships in the past.
Okay, so DJ in the group before Phil, both teeing off early afternoon on Thursday and then morning on Friday. I want to stick with Phil Mickelson just for a second here, Kyle, because you were able to watch the press conference that Phil Mickelson was involved in earlier on today. He was the first player to meet the media this week. What did you take away from what Phil had to say?
Well, not a lot content-wise. He didn't say very much. He gave a lot of kind of stumbling half answers, and I don't know what is true and what is not anymore when it comes to Phil. But I was struck, Chris, by Phil's one of the great characters and one of the great talkers in golf history. I think that's part of his appeal to the broader sports public, to the broader golf public. And I was struck by just the fact that he seemed like a shell of himself. The word that I used was a silhouette of what he used to be. It was not a press conference that was compelling whatsoever. He seemed ashamed of himself in a lot of ways, of the decisions that he's made. And perhaps that's not true. Perhaps that is sort of just how he's presenting himself in public. But the guy that I saw at the microphone on Monday was somebody that was not proud of what he's done in going over to LIV Golf. And I thought that was really interesting. Because, I do think that Phil, among all the guys that have gone over to this league, is the proudest champion of all of them. I think he's the guy that genuinely loves the game the most and is the proudest of what he's done. And it seemed like there was real shame there over moving over to that league and being banned by the PGA Tour. Again, I don't know if that's totally true, but that's the sense that I got. And I think that was there was some sadness there based on that, just watching his press conference on Monday.
And we heard yesterday on CBS, Jay Monahan with Jim Nance, Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA Tour, saying basically, if you chose LIV, you cannot play in the PGA Tour. He didn't say you're done for good, but as long as you're playing in LIV, accepting money from them, you are not going to play on tour. This is part of what Phil Mickelson had to say today when asked about that.
I've worked hard to earn a lifetime membership. I've worked hard to give back to the PGA Tour and the game of golf throughout my 30-plus years of professional golf. And I've earned that lifetime membership. So I believe that it should be my choice.
And clearly, he's not the only golfer who believes that. Where do we go from here with Monahan drawing a line in the sand and some golfers saying you can't do that? Are we headed to some kind of litigation?
I think there will be litigation, perhaps, from the guys that still have retained their PGA Tour memberships. A lot of guys have resigned those. You think about Dustin Johnson and Graham McDowell and several others that have said, hey, I'm just not a member of the PGA Tour anymore. Phil has not done that. He's one of the handful that have said, hey, I'd love to still be a member of the PGA Tour and LIV Golf. So I think there is possible litigation there. But I think the bigger decision, Chris, is what do the major championships do? Obviously, the USGA is allowing players to play in the US Open this year, but is that going to be the case for 2023? The USGA and the RDA and Augusta National and the PGA of America are all have members that vote on whether LIV Golf gets OWGR points in the future, which will determine world rankings and whether guys still get into major championships, because a lot of the spots in these major championships are determined by what your world ranking is. Phil's a really kind of special, interesting case because he's got an automatic exemption into all the majors for at least the next 4 years, and the Masters, PGA, and Open Championship until he's 60, for the next 9 years. The U.S. Open is another 4 years that he has an exemption to. So those major championships are going to have some real decisions to make, specifically as it relates to Phil, of if this guy continues to kind of spearhead this league that nobody's real happy about, specifically the PGA Tour. Are we going to allow him into our major championships? And I think if they don't, there could be more litigation there. So that is sort of the kind of the future, what the future holds for Phil as it relates to professional golf at the level that he's playing at.
Rory McIlroy has been outspoken about the players who have chosen to take the money from LIV, and then he backed it up on the course this week, going head-to-head with LIV and winning the RBC Canadian, and he's playing the best golf of anybody in the world. He's jumped up to number 3 in the world rankings, and he is the favorite this week. Early tee time on Thursday, 7:40 a.m. with Hideki and Xander Schauffele off the 10th tee. What do you think of his chances this week?
Yeah, I think they're pretty good. Listen, like if he hits approach shots like he did on Sunday, when he hit 7 approaches inside of 5 feet, he's going to make Tiger's win in 2000 at Pebble Beach when he won by 15 look like a nail biter in comparison. I mean, he's going to just absolutely obliterate this field. I don't really think that's going to happen, but Rory's playing great golf, and you'll see him chip in here. I believe this was on number 6 on Sunday. His short game, Chris, has been really good this year. He's having one of the best putting years of his career. He's been more creative, I think, around the greens than maybe we've seen from past versions of Rory. I think it's going to come down to what's the approach game like. It was awesome at the Canadian Open. These are some small greens that he's playing on at the Country Club at Brookline. Is he able to play smart and score a little bit, and not, Rory has just kind of, he's had weird runs at some of the majors in recent years where he kind of plays tentative early on, kind of gets himself out of it and has to try to make a run at the end. He's had bad early starts at some of the major championships, and he's tried to kind of race to the finish, and it just hasn't been there. So does he get out early like he did at the PGA Championship at Southern Hills and kind of sustain that throughout? I think the way he hits his approach shots at the Country Club at Brookline is going to determine who wins this major championship. And it's going to be fascinating to watch, because we could have kind of a historic moment with him getting to 5 major championships to go along with those 21, and it would be 22 PGA Tour wins if he wins this weekend.
And if not for Rory, Justin Thomas would probably be the hottest golfer on the planet over the last month or two. Justin Thomas has the second best odds at 12-1, and interesting that he's playing with Tony Finau again. Those two were in that final grouping yesterday at the RBC Canadian, and it's going to be JT with Finau and Victor Hovland.
Yeah, it is. I mean, listen, JT has been extraordinary with his putter over the last couple months. He was really struggling with his putter in the lead up to that. And in 5 of his last 6 events, including the Canadian Open and including the PGA Championships, he's gained strokes with his putter. And you've seen the results have been there. You know, he misses the cut at Colonial, at the Charles Schwab Challenge, but obviously he won the PGA Championship, finished 3rd of the Canadian Open. He's got all the shots, and Brookline is a place that kind of purports itself to be a place where you need all the shots. And if he is, if it turns out like that, I think it's going to be really interesting, because the USGA in recent years, Chris, has kind of, they haven't gone to courses that I think are as interesting as Brookline is. I was kind of doing some research on Monday, and this is a place where you can get yourself into some real trouble off the tee, because it becomes unpredictable in some of the lies that you get if you're missing fairways. And it's a place that it seems like you need all the shots in a way that would fit JT's style really, really well. So I'm fascinated by how he plays this week. If he continues to putt like he is, and continues the shot making that he's had over the last couple months, we could be looking at 2 straight majors and all of a sudden a kind of an historic run in 2022 for JT. All
right, Kyle Porter with us here on HQ as the tee times are released for the U.S. Open, which begins on Thursday. Justin Thomas, the second betting favorite, tied with world number 1 Scottie Scheffler at 12-1. Everybody chasing Rory McIlroy these last couple of months. Rory, ever since that final round at Augusta, has just been on fire, winning the RBC Canadian last week for the 2nd straight year. And we will hear much more from the guys, including Rick Gehman and company, on the First Cut podcast with all your winning picks for the week as well.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.